Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.
In this session, our guest is going to be talking about something very exciting, and that is the sexiness of confidence and how we can get over our insecurities and on with love. And that guest is Christine Hassler. Hi, Christine.
Hi.
It's good to have you here. Thanks so much for diving into this sexy topic. I can't wait.
My pleasure. I love anything that has the word sexy in it. So we're good.
I want to tell everyone a little bit about you and your work before we dive in. So Christine is the best-selling author of 3 books, the most recent being Expectation Hangover, Free Yourself from Your Past, Change Your Present, and Get What You Really Want. And she actually left a successful job as a Hollywood agent to pursue a life she could be passionate about. And for over a decade as a keynote speaker and a retreat facilitator, a spiritual psychologist, a life coach, and the host of the top-rated podcast, Over It and On With It, she has been teaching and inspiring people around the world. So, confidence. What is confidence to you, Christine?
I'll define it very simply, then we can expand on it. So
Okay.
Confidence to me is radical self-acceptance. Period, boom, end of story. And I say radical self-acceptance because we need that word radical in there. I think that too many of us have conditions around our self-acceptance. So we accept ourselves when we're on good behavior in our own mind, but we don't accept ourselves when we perceive ourselves not living into our full potential, or being lazy, or being in a bad mood, or if something external happens, we get rejected, someone says something negative to us. We see other people on Instagram getting all their dreams come true, and we don't. In those moments, we don't accept ourselves, or we judge ourselves. So radical self-acceptance means I accept myself even when I'm judging myself, even when I'm comparing myself to others, even when things aren't going my way. And it doesn't mean I'm in resignation and I don't look at the things about myself that are getting in my way. One of my top core values is growth. I totally value growth. I always want to become an even better human being, but I don't come from the place that there's anything wrong with me. And I can say that all of my insecurities, all of the things that got in my way were 1000% because I was judging myself. It's because I wasn't accepting myself. And I thought I'd feel confident when something would happen. So I'm sure this has come up in conversations before in the summit. It's like confidence is way, way, way too conditional. And that's the problem with it. And people are always trying to do things to make themselves feel more confident, losing the weight, having more money, maybe I'll take public speaking, whatever. You don't get confidence from something external. You do it from that internal radical self-acceptance. And then from that place, you take steps and you take behaviors that eventually make you feel more confident. But the thing that stops us from taking those steps and engaging in those behaviors is because we're so just bogged down by judgment that we're paralyzed.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I'm sure that a lot of people watching right now can relate to that being paralyzed, factor. Cause yes, there are times when, man, it gets bad and it gets in there and, you're on a roll of self-judgment and not accepting and shame and all these things. And it's really hard to move forward. It's kind of like molasses, or getting stuck in mud and
it's honestly like quicksand because you step in it. And at first you could kind of like get out of it. But once the mind starts to downward spiral, it's just like, and you realize you're in quicksand and you're like, help, but you just don't do anything to get out because then you're just judging yourself more that you can't get out. And it truly is a downward spiral. And, I've been a spiritual psychologist and life coach for a while now, life coach since 2004, graduated with my master's degree in 2008 and been seeing clients for 14 years. And P.S., who's been my best client? Me. Many, many sessions with me and me. But it's like every human being, especially in the Western world and our culture, has a core limiting belief that they're not enough, broken, unlovable, unworthy, or undeserving in some way. And it comes from our childhood wounding. And part of our purpose here on this planet as human beings is to realize that that is a bunch of baloney. and to realize that we all are inherently worthy and enough and lovable. But the only person in the entire whole wide world universe that can do that for us is ourselves. And that's the greatest opportunity for humans and the greatest struggle. It's an opportunity because we have 100% control over it. It's the greatest struggle because often our most dysfunctional relationship is our relationship with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And there is, it's the black and white, the two ends of like the duality there, right? Because, the fact that we get to choose is so freeing and amazing. And at the same time, holy crap, like we get to choose, so it is so true. So let's dive into, why do you think sexiness, confidence is a sexy trait?
I think it's the sexiest trait in the world. And I've talked to a lot of people, and, I'm a heterosexual woman, so I'll speak to the heterosexual women, but I think this goes for any sexual orientation, male, female. When I ask men what they're most attracted to, like healthy men, right? They say confidence. Mm-hmm. Confidence. And this is an interesting thing for women in particular, because a lot of us are told growing up, don't be arrogant, don't brag. And so we confuse confidence with arrogance. So we can bookmark that and come back to that. But why I think confidence is so sexy is because when you're around someone that is confident, if we're defining it from the perspective of radical self-acceptance, when I'm around someone that is in radical self-acceptance, what does that ignite in me? Radical self-acceptance. Right. And when we're in radical self-acceptance and we're not in judgment, we light up. And so that person that comes in the room that's like just loves themselves and loves their life and just accepts themselves and is free and expressed, they are so attractive. Mm-hmm. They're so attractive. And they do become sexy because our sexual energy is our major life force energy. When I say sexual energy, I'm not talking about our turn on energy, going and having sex, seductive. Sexual energy is life force. I mean, it takes sexual energy to create life, to give birth to things. So I'm not talking about sex, I'm talking about this energy that runs through us. And when we are in radical self-acceptance, we're accepting everything about ourselves, which also means we're accepting our sexuality and our sexual energy. And so that's running through us. It's like we're lit up on all cylinders. And so we just become a sexier person. Because if we're defining sexy as energetic, which it really is, because everybody watching or listening can remember when you're just super attracted to the person and you're like, God, they're so not my type. Like aesthetically, they're not what I normally look like. There's just something about them. Mm-hmm. Often it is that confidence quality. And I can tell you, like in my 20s, like I was a fitness model. My hair was perfect. My outfits were perfect. I had like 0% body fat. I like looked perfect, but I was desperately insecure and I couldn't get a date to save my life sometimes. And it wasn't because of at all of how I look. I looked sexy according to magazines and billboards and the media in terms of like what they tell us sexy is, which couldn't be further from authentic sexiness. But because I had so much shame, I had so much repressed trauma, shame, body dysmorphia, body image stuff, terrible inner critic in my head, judging myself, felt awkward everywhere I went. I was not sexy at all. And now, years later, when I've done this self-work that really has come to self-acceptance, I just really enjoy myself and I enjoy my body. When you accept yourself and you enjoy your body, you just naturally experience more pleasure. And when you're experiencing more pleasure in your life, and again, I'm not just talking sexually, but you're experiencing more pleasure in your life and more joy, that just makes you sexier. So let's define sexy too. Like sexy isn't a seductress, just going out in the world and hopefully people just want to sleep with you. Sexy is about an attractive energy. It's that energy that draws people in. And I think that we sometimes have judgments on that word because we associate it too much with sex versus it just being someone who's lit up and is enjoying themselves and their life and is just naturally attracting opportunities and people and fun experiences into their life.
Yes. Amen to that, because that's so incredibly true. And I'm sure that, everyone watching right now can relate to that and be like, wow, that is, yes, it's a redefinition of sexiness. And what
Yes.
does that mean? I love it.
Yes. And I think you can think about the times in your life when you felt most sexy. And it's been the times in your life when you've been most accepting of yourself, when you've
Mhm.
been proud of yourself for something, when you just did a like super powerful workshop and like removed a lot of layers and you just kind of had that and people said, "Ooh, you're glowing," that same, I like to define sexiness also as radiance. It is just like emitting your own natural radiant beauty. And that goes for men too. Men have beauty too. So when we're in the energetic of sexiness, we are just radiant. We're radiating our natural essence, our natural beauty, because all human beings are beautiful. And all human beings have their own quality and life spark and essence that makes them sexy and radiant.
Mm.
And there's nothing we have to do in order to let that shine. It's just removing all the judgments that are in our way.
Right. Absolutely. So I'd love to go back to the bookmark you put in there earlier around confidence versus arrogance, because obviously this is something that comes up a lot. So
Yes.
what's the difference between the two?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when I'm a speaker as well. And when I speak to groups of women, an exercise that I have them do is turn to a partner and first list off all the things they love about themselves. And second, list off all the things they want to change about themselves or don't love. And then I ask, what was the process like? And I've done this, hundreds of times. And usually the first or second feedback that I get is it was a lot easier to list off all the things that I don't like about myself than what I do. And then I say, why? Well, because when I talk about the things that I like, it feels like bragging. And that's where the disconnect is when we're acknowledging our unique gifts and our unique qualities and the things that we love about ourselves. That is not bragging. That is acknowledging the truth of who we are.
Right.
Arrogance comes from insecurity. So if you're in radical self-acceptance, it's impossible to be arrogant. Because in radical self-acceptance, there's nothing to prove. There's nothing to make up for. Arrogance comes from when we think we have to prove something. Arrogance comes from a wounded place of feeling not enough and a compensatory strategy of trying to be better than. Because inside we feel so less than. It's the same thing with bullying. Bullies are the same as their victims. They're terrified. They're just the other end of the extreme. So confidence is not a compensation strategy. It's not I got to prove it strategy. It's not I'm better than. Arrogance is, and bragging is. Bragging is I'm better than you. Let me see if I can make you jealous. And we've all been guilty of that from time to time. We're human. We've been guilty of that. And so I think we feel guilty about that. And so then we're afraid to really shine our light and to talk about all the great things that are in our life.
Mm-hmm.
This was something I really had to practice. And so I called a friend of mine, and she also is a successful woman. And I said, I feel like I'm having trouble really celebrating and talking about all the things that are going really great in my life. And I'm talking more about the things that aren't. And I'm bonding to people through struggles and all the things I don't like about myself. And I don't think this is a good idea. So could we be each other's, call each other and celebrate? When you make a big, she's very successful. She makes a lot of money. I'm like, I want to know, tell me your bonus. Tell me how, and tell me how freaking smart you are, and tell me how funny you are, and tell me how you went into that meeting and you just nailed it. And that was a really important step to starting to embody confidence, is being able to talk about our wins and talk about the celebrations without feeling like, ooh, am I bragging, or am I because that's not self-acceptance. Self-acceptance isn't just I accept all the things I don't like about myself. Self-acceptance is also, hey, I'm pretty great in all these areas and I'm going to own those too. This is what I'm really good at. I will say to people, I am an exceptional coach. It is my zone of genius. If someone says, how are you at singing? I'd be like, I suck at singing. I'm really bad at it. Decorating, styling myself. Nope. Have people to help me with that. And that's great, because if we were all good at the same thing, then, but I don't justify, I don't say I'm an amazing coach, but I'm a terrible singer. Cause that's what we do too. Sometimes we think we have to when we shine our light, we also have to show, oh, well, here's all the things I'm really bad at. We don't have to do that. It's just about being truthful. It's about being honest. And it's about really, again, it reminds me of that Marianne Williamson quote, it's our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness. So it's that shining that light, which gives other people unconsciously permission to do the same.
I love it. Thank you. That's awesome. I love that you found a friend that you could, share that with and, kind of be buddies in that way. And one of the things we're doing with this event, Tammy and we're doing daily challenges for everybody. So
cool.
That would be a great challenge for everybody to take on and join, talk about it in the Facebook group, because if you find somebody that you could share this with and, share your experience in the group, right? Find a buddy, find somebody who you could at least talk about, right, your great qualities, what makes you amazing, all of that kind of stuff with, and share about it. Because I think doing things in partnership in general is just, it makes it so much more fun, in my opinion. And
totally.
You can totally help each other. So speaking of partnership, this is a little different, but I know that
we're going there.
I know that you talk a lot about, love and romantic relationships and stuff in your work. So how does a lack of self-confidence prevent people, right, from getting into a great, healthy romantic relationship, or, damage or maybe destroy relationships? So how does that all work?
Oh my goodness. Well, we don't have that much time because there's so many ways that it shows up. But let me see if I can give some of the highlights. So when we're not in radical self-acceptance, that means that our wounding is still running, our old stories about ourselves, right? So that means that we're going to track, if we attack a relationship at all, we're going to track something that goes in accordance to our story. So if I am very insecure, right, and I might draw in someone who's also insecure. And so in that relationship, it could be very codependent because we're always afraid the other person isn't going to think we're enough, or we're not enough, or the other person isn't loving us enough. So it's like that codependent, I need you. Oh, wait, you want too much of me. I'm not worthy. So it's like that push-pull that can totally show up. So issues of confidence often tie to self-worth. So that often can lead to kind of codependent relationships. Also, that not enoughness, lacking confidence, insecurity, to help you learn that life lesson, you may draw in people who reject you, who abandon you, who cheat on you, because you have a story running. I'm not sexy enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I'm not that enough. And if you believe that, you're going to attract people that prove you correct. So again, that's how it can show up. Then in terms of if you're single and you're dating and you don't have a lot of confidence and you're out in the world and you're doing all the right things, you've had a dating coach help you write your profile, you're swiping, you're out there, you feng shuied your house, you're doing everything right. But if you're not confident on dates, the person you're on the date with is going to feel that, probably unconsciously, but we're not as attractive when we're judging ourselves. Because when we're judging ourselves, what does that cause for the other person? It causes them to judge themselves. It causes them to feel like we're judging them, or we just kind of feel awkward and unrelatable and inauthentic. It's amazing how insecurity can get in the way of connection. Because if I was sitting here talking to you right now, and the whole time I'm judging myself and analyzing every word, I'd be stumbling, I'd be looking around, I'd lose my train of thought. It would be an awkward interview. Right? It would just be weird, kind of like I just demonstrated. And so that's sometimes how we can show up. Now, let me just emphasize that you don't have to get to the point where you're like, I'm not saying confidence is, I'm amazing, I'm the best person in the world, I love myself completely. No. Defining it as radical self-acceptance. You do not have to be perfect. I feel too many people work on themselves, like I'm working on myself so that I can get into a relationship. First of all, nothing's wrong with you. And once you get in a relationship, you're still going to be working on yourself because you're still on the planet. So until you're dead, you're working on yourself.
Yeah.
And that runs the pattern of, I have to be this way before I can get in a relationship. Now, that said, I do think sometimes it's good not to go out and date when you're working through wounding around insecurities, lack of confidence, old abandonment, betrayal, abuse, trauma, whatever it may be, because until that story starts to shift, you're gonna attract people that fit into that story. So I do think that honoring singlehood is important. It was a big chapter in my life. But at the same time, don't wait until you feel totally healed and totally complete until you go out there. Wait until you feel confident. Radical self-acceptance. And in relationship, please don't put it on the person you're dating, married to, or living with, whatever, to make you feel secure about yourself.
Yes.
That is huge. And for a lot of people who grew up in homes where there was a lot of chaos, where there wasn't a lot of certainty, where they didn't feel safe, this is a big, big issue. And so that self-security and that sense of safety, that has to come from inside too. I'm sure it's been a repetitive theme in this conference. It's always an inside job.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's so key. And as much as we, particularly women, right, have grown up in this interesting world of, Harlequin romance and fantasy and Disney movies and all this stuff, right? Like it is not, right? Those are all, like, ultimately, in my mind, illusions. And, there's not a lot of truth in, that, you must find the guy or girl or whoever, right? Whatever floats your boat, right? On that white stallion, coming to save you and rescue and provide that safety for you. Right.
Right. It just never happens. And the other thing that I think is important to mention is, what do you, if you've been dumped, if you've been rejected, whether it's a divorce after 20 years or you got ghosted, what do you do with your confidence then?
Right.
So the first thing I would say is, first, you really got to feel your feelings. You can't just be like, well, someone better is coming along. There's a silver lining in anything. Like, I'm just going to be strong, get through this, and do my Louise Hay positive affirmations and chant some mantra and not feel it. And I'm going to be fine. Like,
right.
bad you'll end up with what I like to call an expectation hangover. So whenever we're rejected or ghosted, there's a grieving process, because there's a part of our brain that thinks we did something wrong. And there's a part of our brain that initially takes it a little personally. And the best way to get out of the habit of taking it personally and allowing the mind to go is just to get in the body and feel your feelings about it. Cry your tears, yell and hit a pillow, get it out of you, call them all kinds of names, not to their face, write letters that you rip up, get the emotions out, because once you do that, then you can start working with the mind. We jump too quickly to try to change the mind about something. And it's really hard to change the mind about something when there's still a lot of emotion in the body. Mm-hmm. So if the body and the psyche and because the unconscious and the body are very tied together. The mind, the conscious mind and the body, not as much, but our body, how our body talks to us is how our unconscious mind talks to us is through our body, and emotions get in our body. So give yourself time to feel your feelings, to move it through your body. Then start to change the story about it. And one of my favorite ways to shift it, because I'm very passionate about teaching about breakups, because they're always lead to breakthroughs. And I think another talk about the romance novels is there's a story of, if it doesn't last forever, it was a failure. And you're supposed to find this one person who's the one person who's your soulmate, and you meet and that's it. And if it doesn't last, then you failed. Or something's wrong with you, or you weren't good enough. Nothing teaches us like romantic relationships do. So, or any kind of intimate, it could be a friendship. It could be a friend that dumps you. That happens too.
Right.
But romantic relationships in particular are an amazing opportunity to do major healing work, because typically romantic relationships trigger our issues with our parents, trigger our childhood wounding. And so it's a beautiful opportunity to feel emotions that aren't just about that relationship, but are about something much deeper. Mm-hmm. And when we can do that work and then try to change the story and ask my favorite question, which is, what am I learning from this? Not why did it happen, but what am I learning from this? Why did I track this person? What did they teach me? What were the projections, positive or negative? What were they reflecting back to me positively, things I didn't see about myself? What were they reflecting back to me negatively? What qualities were they exhibiting that I have inside? So there's so much learning that can happen in a breakup. And when we're too in our pity party, and too in our rejection story, and too in our insecurity, we can't be a good student of the breakup. And without being a good student of the breakup, we don't get the breakthrough. And then we just keep dating the same person with a different face
Right.
over and over and over again. Or we just go, shut it off. I'm
Right.
not enough.
Screw
Confidence
it, I'm
goes
not
out the
doing
window.
it.
Yeah, confidence goes out the window. There goes the sexiness. And it's over.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I'm always like, I always feel I'm very into being in a relationship with my partner. It's so important to me. And it's just a big part of my life. And I had to go through lots of those, breakups, breakthroughs and all that stuff to get to where I am today. And yeah, I think it's such an amazing opportunity for us to work because everything comes right. Everything comes up, all the triggers, all the everything. It's all just like,
totally.
it just is amazing. So, you mentioned changing the story a few times. So, right. Once someone has, actually sat with their feelings and really been present to how they feel and wrote the letters and ripped them up and screamed the names in the pillow and all that stuff. How does one change the story?
Well, first, it's sort of looking at what was the old story, right? Like, what was the old story around the way life works for you, the way relationships work for you, those types of things. That's something I walk through people, in my courses and books, I kind of walk people through. Is first, you got to get a really good understanding of the story you have been telling, because it's hard to edit the script if you don't have the original draft. So that would be the first step, like look at the story that I'm telling. And then, I really love the work of Byron Katie and Challenging Beliefs, where you look at what you believe and you go, is that really true?
Right.
Is that really true? So I had a major rejection story of people don't like me. And then when I was working through relationship stuff, because I, in my 20s, was broken up with by my fiance 6 months before my wedding. And then in my 30s, I got divorced. So I've checked off every box except widowed in the relationship, status section.
Yes.
And I don't plan to check off widow anytime very soon. My fiance and I want to, die on the exact same day.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yes.
I know. Well, hey,
you never, hey, yeah.
Yeah, you never know. But so changing the story is really about challenging the old one. And like I was saying, I had that belief, no one liked me, men don't like me. And then I'd like, is that really true? Is it really true that no one has ever liked me? Is it really true that no one of the opposite sex has ever liked me? And then I'd be like, well, the ones that like me don't like me back. And then I'd be like, is that really true? Nope. You and your ex really liked each other. So it's challenging it so much and then coming up with a new belief. And it's kind of hard for the mind to go from I'm unlikable to I'm totally lovable and everyone loves me. So you have to kind of baby step your beliefs. So go from something like I'm unlikable and everyone will reject me to I'm doing the best I can. I'm getting better at liking myself. Those baby step beliefs and rewriting the story are an important part of rewriting the story, because you can keep rewriting it and you can keep updating it. A lot of what I see people have trouble in terms of shifting the story and shifting the limiting beliefs is they try to do a pendulum swing in their belief system. And the mind, especially the unconscious mind, is like, no, we've spent 20 years believing we're a total piece of crap and you want to get to like, we're amazing. No, like alert, like something too much of a jump. So you just kind of make those baby steps in terms of updating the story until you start telling like a much, much different story. And then you start to collect evidence in the external world of how your new belief system is setting up. So as I, was kind of updating my belief system, one of my beliefs that I started to make is, I take initiative to make friends, because that was another kind of in my rejection, like having no friends and felt insecure about that. And so I would literally ask people if they wanted to be my friend. And people started saying yes. And I'd go on friend dates with people. And I just start to collect evidence that started to prove that to be true. Mm-hmm. So it's just baby stepping it, being really clear about the new belief system, and then taking action steps, because the unconscious mind starts to believe the new belief system when we take action steps to support it. So you can't just have your beliefs and do your affirmations. You got to take those little confidence steps. And that's where that radical self-acceptance is so important, because if you're in that radical self-acceptance, it's a lot less wobbly when you step, because you're not afraid of yourself if you fall.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love particularly the part you talked about, like, asking someone if they'll be your friend. And it reminds me of just like being a little girl, right? Like, what did we say to a kid that was playing at the playground? Will you be my friend? I mean, that's the stuff that we said when we were kids. And it was like, it was just, such an innocent time, but yeah, same thing. We can do that now.
Absolutely, 1000%. Yep, exactly.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much. I love it. And I love everything. And thanks so much for taking the time to be here. Do you have any final insights or last words you want to leave everybody with before we hop off?
I would just say, talk to yourself in your head like you talk to your best friend or your child. Really think about, would you ever talk to your child or your best friend the way you do in your head? And start there. Start by just being a friendlier voice inside your own head. And that's a beautiful step to becoming more confident and ultimately more sexy as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. This has been amazing. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into Christine's interview. And here, once again, is to our collective journey to harnessing our inner power and creating unstoppable self-confidence. Bye, everybody.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.